Hello and welcome back to Lessons in Attachment. I'm Carly Ann. I am the very proud founder of the Attachment Recovery Gym, which is your online membership for those of you that relate to anxious attachment and you're really in this phase of your healing of learning and taking action. Basically, you are ready for change and you are determined to become secure and so much more. Inside the Attachment Recovery Gym, I'm teaching from a place of over a decade of professional experience and 3 decades of personal experience. And what I really want for you from this podcast is for you to be able to take some ideas and some gems that can also help you on your journey as you move from insecure towards being more secure. Today, I want to talk to you about something that is often not related to adults, but is something that for sure adults who relate to anxious attachment can experience to the point of feeling like you're completely overwhelmed and you can't calm yourself down. So, I'm talking about separation anxiety in adults. So, let me explain what that is. Living with separation anxiety means constantly fearing the worst when you're apart from the person you love. Say, for example, your partner goes away. You find yourself worrying excessively about their safety or the possibility of them meeting someone new. This fear of losing them is all consuming, making it hard to focus on anything else until they're back by your side. So many people come to me talking about times when they either know that their partner is going away or they are separated from them at this time, and their anxiety gets really, really triggered. They might struggle to trust. They might have quite severe kind of images of their partner meeting someone else or something bad happening. And it can be so overwhelming for your body that you act out. This is something that people can find difficult to admit. It's something that can create problems in relationships because of the compulsions that this kind of anxiety can lead to in the person that's feeling anxious. And not to mention that, like I said, we often relate this to children, right? That separation anxiety from parents. And so I think there is this kind of I don't want to admit that, or that view of, oh, that person's crazy, they're too much, they're jealous, all of these things. The reality is, so many of us with anxious attachment can relate to this. That's why actually this is one of the topics that I'm covering inside the Attachment Recovery Gym, because I really want to explore different difficulties that people with anxious attachment experience, bring it to the surface, say it out loud. Like, that's how we tackle shame. That's how we tackle these problems. We say it out loud, and it is so freeing. And I really hope that that's what this episode can bring today. So, I'm going to share some signs of separation anxiety in adults, especially with anxious attachment. They are things that I personally can relate to. And I'm so proud to say that I've seen huge, huge shifts in this. And also, clients that I work with, people inside the Attachment Recovery Gym, within my community, listening to the podcast, Instagram followers, people that are not even in my world that relate to having anxious attachment also experience this. So I guess I'm just really trying to get across the point that you're not on your own. So release the shame, release the embarrassment, and let's work towards shifting it. Doesn't mean we want to stay in these patterns because they're painful and they create more problems than it's worth. But it's important that we have that kind of radical acceptance of where we are and what we experience when we're insecure. Okay, so I'm sharing with you from a post that I recently posted on Instagram. If you're not following me, carly.ann underscore. So I'm going to read the signs that I said and I'll just elaborate on them a bit for you because I guess that's the beauty of having a podcast, right? And talking it through. So the first sign is constantly seeking reassurance and frequent contact with someone you're attached to, like calling them multiple times a day or always wanting to know exactly where they are and who they are with. So you'll have this impulse to know what they're up to, where are they, and that anxiety will be really strong, even if you don't quite know why, when you don't know these things. And you will want to seek this information out. And so it will be through texting, checking, calling. It depends on the relationship that you have with the person that you're attached to, of how you're going to create this contact. You can also get this if you're attached to someone that you're no longer actually in relationship with or haven't been in relationship with, but you might still feel like you want to know what they're up to, what are their plans this weekend. And you will clock in a conversation. I'll share this in a minute, but you'll clock in a conversation what they're up to in 3 weeks, and you will store that information. The next sign is needing to know exactly when and how you'll reunite with the person that you're attached to. So even if that means like taking extra steps in terms of noticing any details about their plans, things that might be getting in the way of when you're going to see each other again, that might even help you if you're like, "Ah, okay, so I know I clocked that they are going away for 2 weeks, so I know that that's when I'm going to see them again." If you don't know that information, then you might find that you really, really want to know it. This is one of those kind of underlying factors a lot of the time why, if you haven't heard from the person that you're attached to yet, if you haven't got that next date in the diary and things like that, you can feel really, really anxious. And a lot of people with anxious attachment will talk about how they need to know plans. They need to know exactly what's going on because of my diary. And isn't that only fair? And yes, it is. But you have to be really honest with yourself when it's also coming from this place, that I can't cope when I don't know when I'm going to see this person again. Because relationships are all about coming together and parting ways and having some trust. I would say again, easier later in the relationship than in the beginning, when you like someone, you don't know how they feel, you don't know if you're going to see them again, that kind of thing. But this is where you wonder, could I have been a detective in a previous life? Okay, the next sign I have, and by the way, the signs that I'm sharing, they're a partial list. There are many more. So feeling anxious and maybe even starting an argument when they're leaving to go somewhere new, or maybe they're going back home, they're going away, especially if there's uncertainty about when you'll see them again. It's like the previous point. Also, if you are jealous or threatened or triggered by where they're going, the fact that you're not going, all of those kind of things that can come up. What I would say about this one is, it's not like you think, I'm going to start an argument. It's not like that, but you might begin to notice a pattern of, before they're leaving, or when you know kind of roughly, okay, they're leaving at 6 p.m., you might notice that a fight can get started. And it's not you having this like clear strategy. It's, it's the emotion that's going on. It's the anxiety that's coming up. It's those compulsions to these kind of emotions, and not being able to handle these kind of emotions. And perhaps what it is that's really triggered underneath, like fear of being alone, fear of rejection, fear of what this separation means. And I've definitely fallen into this one. I remember when I was dating my partner, I would be really aware of, yeah, kind of like when he was leaving, and like say we'd go for a coffee, I would know, I'd be like counting down the time, okay, he's going home soon. And there was just this like anxiety, and I kind of wanted it to prolong. And that is, yes, I wanted to prolong it because I wanted to spend time with him, absolutely. But it was also from this quite anxious place of what separation meant for me at that time. Luckily, that's something I really had the chance to work on, and continue to work on now as well. Next is not wanting to go out or travel, feeling calmer and safer staying at home, keeping your diary free just in case, especially when you've picked up on their plans and if they might be free. So if you have had that detective moment and you know, okay, they're free on Saturday, or I know that they're doing something where maybe they'll invite me to that, you will make half-assed plans with your friends, plans that you can potentially cancel, or you won't make plans at all. If you're in relationship, you might find that you don't like to go away. You get anxious about going away overnight or going away for too long because there is just this need to kind of be around your partner. Again, you might not be conscious that that's going on. You might really feel like, oh, I just don't want to go away. But there's this kind of underlying discomfort of being apart. You can think of it like linking back to children, right? And with parents, children need to feel safe in order to go and explore the world and play and have that safe base to come back to, which is their parents, right? And in this case, if you struggle with being separate from the person you're attached to, it's hard at those times to go and explore and play and have fun because there is an underlying fear that may be unconscious about that kind of play and fun. Because what does it mean for me when I'm not with my attachment figure? Does love come back? Will we return? Probably you lack some trust in that. Okay, the next sign is big, intense reactions when there is a change in plans or routine. You can become extremely overwhelmed and, in some cases, even act out of character. This used to be me. I could not physically, emotionally handle a change in plans. I can still struggle with this, but I can definitely tolerate it much more than I have done in the past. But I do know in this relationship, I can think of a couple of times off the top of my head that a plan has suddenly been changed and I really did not react well. But for the most part, again, this is something I can handle now. You know, if my partner says last minute, I'm going to see a friend, that doesn't trigger me like in like years ago. I just would have been like, well, what do you mean? That wasn't the plan. I just would have really struggled. I would have felt like I would have somehow taken it personally. What does this mean? Of course, it can be different. I don't want you to be in relationship with someone that is literally cancelling on you all the time and you're just radically accepting that and putting up with it or treating it as your separation anxiety. Like, you do deserve someone that wants to spend time with you and doesn't cancel and change plans at the last minute all the time. You need to be able to decipher between when this is separation anxiety and something that you personally want to be better with versus that alternative. For example, if you're dating someone and they've cancelled a date, does that mean that it's over? Does that mean that they are rude and not caring? No. Things come up. Sometimes we're not in the mood, whatever it might be. Here you're probably looking at what's the regular pattern and making a decision based on that. Okay, and the final sign is ruminating, worrying, and obsessing when you learn they are going away, especially if there will be someone you deem as a threat or important to your attachment figure. So, not only do you have that separation anxiety, so it's a bit like what I was saying about when you go away, but around when they're going away, but it is going to be even more like the emotion, the overwhelm and possibly the distress that you feel may not be able to manage unless you've really built up your skills and exercised your security, is if there is someone that you deem a threat. Now, that might be a specific person. It might be someone in your imagination that they're just going to meet someone better. It could even be a family member for them, just someone that you kind of compare yourself to and worry that they care about someone else more than you. Whatever it might be, it's someone for you, real or not real, that you deem as a threat. And that can really hugely increase your separation anxiety. Or if there is some kind of familiar part of this that, you know, there was a memory or an issue with an ex, for example, and there's something familiar here, that separation might be even harder to manage, even harder to control. So there you have it, guys. They are just a few of the signs, like I said, for separation anxiety with adults. And this is a topic that I'm covering inside the attachment recovery gym, meaning there is a workshop, there'll be a somatic practice around this. There will be bonus conversation, bonus materials, tips, psychological tools for actually managing this. Yeah, journal prompts, affirmations specifically for this. You get all of that around these specific topics because I really am just determined to, I guess, like spread the message and make sure that as a community, we know that you're not on your own and that you get to practice and exercise your secure self that I really believe is within. If you're not there, then continue listening to the podcast. Like I say, follow me on Instagram, carly.ann_. I've got freebies that you can access. Just go to the description, all of those things. And yeah, I would love it if you do the subscribing, the downloading, and that kind of thing, just to really get this podcast out to people just like you and me that really need this information. So I would appreciate that. I also appreciate that it's a bit of effort. Okay, guys, I will be back here again soon, continuing on these topics and hopefully giving you some gems, some ideas to really help you to move from insecure to secure. Remember, I truly, truly believe that you have that secure self within and you deserve a happy, healthy love in your lifetime.